So I recently found a cheap USB powered LED interior lighting kit from Amazon, and I thought I would give it a shot and see if it's any good. It comes in a small branded cardboard box, and inside you will find a remote, a double USB car adapter, user manual, USB power cable, and 4 LED light strips connected to a control box with an infrared receiver for the remote control. You can also get a kit that uses a Bluetooth phone app to control the lighting, and one that plugs directly into the cigarette lighter instead of using USB. The LED strips are stored in flexible tubes that are backed with a 3M adhesive. However, the LED wires do not disconnect from the control box, and there are no connectors to add additional lights. Before installing it, I would just test it out to make sure it works properly. You should be able to plug it right into most any USB power supply. And then don't forget to remove the plastic tab for the remote battery. I'm just gonna run through all the colors and modes to make sure everything works properly. One thing I really like about this kit is that when it loses power, it remembers whatever setting it was last on. This is nice so it doesn't reset to a default setting every time you start the car, which would get really annoying. And also the solid colors are dimmable, which is nice. Alright, so now I'm going to be installing it in this 99 4Runner. It's going to be somewhat different for every vehicle, but this should just give you a basic idea of how to install it. The first thing you will want to do is find which power outlet you're going to want to use. I'm going to be using one of these lower ones and have the control box behind the trim panel with the power wire and the infrared receiver running under the ashtray. Also check that the power outlet or the cigarette lighter that you're using only gets power when the key is set to the accessory or the on position, so it won't drain your battery. You can check this by making sure the light on the USB car adapter turns on and off with the ignition. Next, you will need to remove the trim panels needed to route the LED wires from the control box to under each side of the dash and under the front seats. For this vehicle, I removed the cup holders, the trim around the shifters, and the trim around the radio in that order, all of which are held on by clips. If you don't know how to remove the trim on your particular vehicle, you can usually find out how on the internet. A lot of times there are hidden screws, so try not to force it too much or you could break the trim. Also, using a plastic trim tool will prevent putting pry marks on it. And you will probably have to unplug some of the connectors in order to get the trim all the way off. The wires for the LED strips are different lengths, and the ones that go on the front or the back will depend on where the control box will be located. Then feed the 2 front LED strips under each side of the dash. You will then need to figure out where exactly you're going to want to place them. For the passenger side, it will fit nicely on this metal bar. If you're only using the adhesive, I recommend cleaning the surface off with an alcohol prep pad and letting it dry, then sticking it on. Personally, I've never had good luck with this stuff staying stuck upside down in a car. It usually ends up falling off later on, so I would recommend using zip ties. Moving over to the driver's side, I found it would fit well on this air duct, and I ended up having to remove the front cover in order to get these doubled up zip ties around it. Once you have the LED strips on, make sure the wires won't get caught on any moving parts like the pedals or the air flap actuator, and zip tie any loose wiring if you need to. Now that the front is good, I'm going to run the rear strips beside the front seats and push one under the center console on each side, then push them underneath the seat tracks. Make sure not to run them over the seat track or the wires could potentially get chewed up when you move the seats back and forth. Then, without removing the adhesive backing, I zip tied each strip to the bottom of the seat cushions like that. Then I made sure there was enough wire slack on each side of the seats to move all the way back and forth, and also made sure the wires would not get caught on anything. Then underneath the center console, I zip tied the wires to the subwoofer wiring, making sure to leave some extra slack just in case. And I made sure to zip tie it away from the 4x4 shifter so it wouldn't get caught. I like to keep my wires organized, so I bundled up all the excess wiring and zip tied it together. I plugged in the USB power cable to the control box and zip tied it next to the cigarette lighter wiring, and then routed the power cable and remote receiver under where the ashtray goes. Don't forget to plug in any connectors you disconnected as you reinstall the trim. Make sure the remote receiver and the USB cable is accessible so you can power it up and change the settings. Plug it in and it should light up. Really, the only bad thing I can say about this kit is the USB car adapter it comes with is terrible. It sticks out pretty far, and unfortunately it is really loose and does not stay in the outlet well at all. It loses connection, wiggles around, and falls out really easily, especially when driving off-road. It's like they made it a little bit too small. So I ended up having to get a smaller double USB car adapter that fit perfectly and stayed in place. Other than that, the ambient lights worked perfectly. You can turn it on and off with the remote, and it will turn off no matter what with the vehicle as long as the power outlet goes on and off with the ignition. Then it remembers the exact settings you had it on last after losing power. The colors you can choose from are red, green, blue, white, orange, yellow, cyan, and purple. For the colors, you can also change the brightness. You can dim them all the way down so you can barely see it. This is nice so the light is not distracting while driving at night. Then below the colors, there are jump and fade settings. The brightness buttons only control the speed in which the colors change and do not control the brightness. Below that, there are the music settings, which use the internal microphone in the control box to change the colors to the beat. The brightness buttons only change the pickup sensitivity for these settings. Honestly though, I think the music settings are kinda nauseating. Well, anyways guys, other than the adapter not fitting right, this cheap ambient lighting kit works great. The fact that you can change the brightness on the solid colors and that it remembers your settings after losing power definitely made it worth it for me. So if you want to check this out, I will leave links down below, and also buying from one of these links will help support the channel and will allow me to make more car electronic videos for you guys. But thanks for watching, hope you found this useful, and I will see you guys later. Peace.